Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 5 of the War of the Worlds War Machine build. Today we're going to actually start sanding the seams so we can get it prepped for painting. Getting down to that, yeah. So I already have the seams putty, but we got to do a lot of sanding, get all those edges smooth. So let's go take a look.
All right, well, hello and welcome back. She is glued together, and I went through and did a light scuff of everything. The sandy's seam smoother. Then I actually went back and took some of the Revell glue and actually put some more down in the seams to make sure all these edges are nice and solid for the spot putty. That way we don't get any cracking, especially in these areas here that were a little loose. But everything looks good. And then I put a layer of spot putty down, and that's looking good. So we can give her a sand. This is all together, and did a light sanding of it. So we can actually, there's little high spots with that centerpiece that goes in here, so I went and sanded that, and then tried to do as lightly as possible so we don't lose any of these little grids here for the flexible turret. But we'll go back in. We can take the continue to scribe anything back. I think to fill in all that seams, I'm just going to use surface primer, because they're not very deep. I'm going to try the surface primer, and then I'll just hit all those individually and try not to get into these seams there. But it's time to sand this, so I'm going to take some 320 and just give it a light knockdown. They were smart by making the seams where this top overlaps the bottom, so it puts the seam more at the bottom edge. So that makes it a little nicer to hide. Going in and knocking it down with this, and then we'll take it the rest of the way with some lighter grit. And we'll also see where we might need more. Like in here we might need more, but I think I can, what's left I can use the surface primer to fill in. It's knocking that down nice. Block or something. Yeah, it's got too many curves. Here's a little compound edge. We have the edge here, and then we have a bevel starting from here to here. And then we have this edge, so there's a couple different edges that we want to kind of keep nice. Especially in this back end here. That's why I do the surface putty. It's really nice because it sands really easy. So you don't really have to sand so hard that you start misshaping your plastic. Especially when you have like bevel here and then a different angle there. Yeah, it's looking good. This side's had the worst seams right here. Like I said, we'll go over with the surface primer over these edges, and hey, that seals the spot putty for paint, and it also fills in any other minor scratches and imperfections in the seam. Those are looking good. And you want to do good on your sanding. Your sanding is everything. You're prepping for paint pretty much, so if you want an easy, nice, smooth paint job, you want to get a nice, smooth sanding. Here, clean up the edges here. Make sure all those feel nice. Here I want to be really light with because the clear plastic piece has got to go over there, so we don't want to misshape that at all. But it filled into that gap really nice. I'll take a light piece and clean that gap out. Yeah, this is a really nice kit. It's gone together really easily. You know, I had to figure out this area here in order to push these down in and have this still spin. But if you weren't doing lights, it was really going together nice and quick. But it's working pretty good with low lighting too. get rid of all that inner parts, so you give your wires room to move. And that worked really good, having this stand having such a wide base here, so I can just hook those wires right up through that. There's other kits I think I'm going to have to do a similar, if I'm using the kits provided, the older AMTs. Most of them I'm going to build my own bases and just use rods. It's so much easier to get a wire up and through, and it's nice and tight. But this had a nice base to it, so when they have something cool like that, it's nice to be able to use it. And then people still try to figure out at first, oh, how's that powered up? Is it a battery? No. Don't want to mess with batteries. That seat cleaned up, really nice. And don't be afraid to use 320. You won't knock the plastic down that bad, because, like I said, the spot putty sands really easy. So you're almost just hitting it with sandpaper. You're not really even pushing. Except for like here where I'm getting into the plastic. I'm actually trying to sand the plastic because this lip was a little higher. As you can see, the dark red that's showing you, I'm still not getting down 100% to the primer or to the putty. I'm gonna keep sanding and keep sanding until it all blends in there. Leaving a spot there where the plastic's still. Has a high spot. But it feels good, and like I said, the putty or the surface primer will fill in any of the rest of the boot gaps that's left. But if I can sand some of it out too, that's great, without misshaping. Like I said, here I gotta go real light over just to knock down the putty. And figure out how I'm gonna clean out those corners from the inside. Most of it's going to get covered, so I'll probably just take a X-Acto knife and cut through it. Because the clear parts cover into the here. That's why from here to here I want it nice and smooth. The clear part's going to, doesn't just cover the opening, comes a little bit out and takes the shape of the ship. It's a really nice design. Ship all in general. Especially for an iconic 50s sci-fi, you know, based off of a book. And I guess it was a book, and then they had the radio broadcast that caused panic, and so that's how I know this movie from. My friend Chip, growing up, he had a cassette of the radio broadcast where the Martians landed in Trenton, New Jersey. And we used to listen to that once in a while on sleepovers and stuff. Along with another horror, I think that was on record, where it had a bunch of little mini horror stories, scary stories. But now you hear all those like screams and laughs and stuff like used, and so many other things. You can tell they're stocked sound effects. But that's how it was back then here. good. I think that's good with the 320. Got my Wonderfest apron on. I'm glad I got that, because in these situations where I don't want to get myself all dirty, especially puttying or doing some hand painting, it comes in handy. I guess I can go across and do a light sanding. That's 500 here. And I'm gonna go over the whole ship. I went over the top with a 320 Scotch-Brite. It scuffs it up good for paint. A little bit of the black that I had for light blocking that was on it, but that'll be loose. It'll never grab, so that'll make a slick spot. And that just tooths your plastic up so you can it'll accept paint better, but not make major scratches where you gotta put like a bunch of coats on. Then you won't get any delamming or this won't be critical because we're not doing like any type of Aztecing or any type of masking where you're gonna mask on top of your base coat. But it's still good to do. Keep 500 here. Get all this deep scratches from the 320 out. You down so you're out of the way.
Really, we should do.
I'm not sure what I want to do in there. If I want to do a black, I mean, it's going to have the green and the fiberfill, so you're never going to see in there. Just for my own personal preference, just to make it look kind of cool as you're building it. I might do black in there. I don't really need to do a silver or a white or fleck light that way, because it's going to be a pretty big light strip, and it's a high density, or dual density, or whatever. LED strips is what I use, so I got plenty of bulbs, and that's that amount of space of tape. Gonna get copper in there too, so I'll probably when I spray it. But there, yeah, I'm liking that. Scotch right over, just clean it up and see where. Scotch-Brite's another good way to sand compound like shapes like that without, you know, morphing your shapes. But yeah, I love using this stuff. You can use steel wool as well. Like really fine steel wool. Works really good. Sometimes this is better because it doesn't corrode or leave residues, and you seem to get more uses out of it. Steel wool can flake, but it does work just as good. Just as nice. Clean it. Scotch-Brite cleans up all this compound curves there. Or this, because you got this kind of shape, and you got this coming down, so you got this weird little junction right there and there. It helps you sand that really nice. Yeah, that looks wonderful. Alright, we'll put she's getting ready for a couple coats of surface primer. And we'll actually brush those on in so we can get a good thickness here, especially here. It looks really good, but I want to 100% make sure, and plus it'll give a good sealing coat on that putty, so it'll accept paint instead of absorbing it. You know, sometimes you paint over a seam that was thick and it's full of putty. Even though the seam is nice and level, you know, your first coats, it may be dry in that area looking. That's, you know, even with a primer, that's where primers come in good. So there we go. I just wanted to show you a quick little update on that. This is looking good. Well, I'll use surface primer to make sure that this seam is really good, but just gluing and running this extra thin Tamiya in that seam and squeezing really good, it welds those seams almost to the point where you don't even, you know, you don't have a seam anymore. And you can just usually just end up just taking Scotch-Brite, light sandpaper first. Like here I took 500, and you usually can just go over that seam there with that and you won't even notice it. So that's looking really good. Really happy with that. So until next time, thanks for watching.